What if I told you the most ruthless form of power isn't dominance, aggression, or intelligence, but ignoring people completely? Why do some individuals lose control the moment they're ignored, while others become untouchable? Here's the uncomfortable truth: most people aren't destroyed by enemies, they're destroyed by reaction. They explain too much. They respond too fast. They give access where none is deserved, and in doing so, they hand their power away. Today, you'll learn why ignoring people isn't weakness. It's psychological warfare. Problem definition. Most people believe their problem is other people. Rude people, manipulative people, disrespectful people, attention seekers. But that's not the real enemy. The real enemy is your automatic reaction. You live in a world where everyone wants access to your emotions, your attention, your explanations, your validation. And the moment you give it, even unintentionally, you lose leverage. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You are not exhausted because people are difficult. You are exhausted because you keep engaging. Every argument you didn't need to join, every message you replied to just to be polite, every insult you tried to defend yourself against, every manipulation you tried to explain your way out of. These reactions feel harmless in the moment, but psychologically they send a clear signal. You have access to me. And access is power. The invisible enemy is not noise. It's emotional availability without boundaries. Most people are raised to believe reacting is maturity, that responding quickly is respect, that explaining yourself proves innocence, that silence means weakness. This belief is what keeps people trapped, because manipulators, narcissists, and insecure individuals thrive on one thing: reaction. They don't need to win an argument. They just need to pull you into emotional engagement. Once you're emotionally engaged, you're no longer in control. Think about it. Why does criticism hurt more when it comes from certain people? Why does ignoring a message feel uncomfortable? Why do you feel the urge to clear things up, even when you've done nothing wrong? Because humans are wired to seek validation, and modern society exploits that wiring. Social media trains you to respond. Work culture trains you to be available. Relationships train you to explain yourself endlessly. And slowly, without realizing it, you become predictable. Predictability is weakness. If someone knows they can provoke a reaction from you, they own a psychological lever. They can pull it whenever they want. The invisible enemy hides behind familiar emotions. Guilt. If I don't respond, I'll look rude. Fear. If I ignore this, it might get worse. Ego. I can't let them think they're right. Hope. Maybe if I explain, they'll understand. But here's the harsh reality. People who want to understand don't need explanations. People who want control feed on them. By constantly reacting, you teach people how to treat you. You teach them that they can interrupt your peace, that they can demand justification, that they can occupy space in your mind rent-free. Ignoring feels uncomfortable because it breaks conditioning. It goes against years of social programming that says engage, react, prove, and defend. But power has never belonged to those who react. It belongs to those who decide when silence is the answer. The problem isn't that people cross boundaries. The problem is that most people don't enforce them. And boundaries are not arguments. They are not explanations. They are not speeches. Boundaries are enforced through absence. When you ignore someone who expects a reaction, you disrupt the power dynamic. You remove the fuel. You end the game without announcing it's over. That's why ignoring feels dangerous, because it threatens the invisible systems of control people rely on. Until you recognize this invisible enemy, your own impulse to react, you'll stay trapped in cycles of drama, manipulation, and emotional fatigue. Ignoring people is not about arrogance, it's about self-respect. And once you see the enemy clearly, you'll understand why silence is not passive. It's strategic, psychological explanation. Ignoring people is powerful not because it's rude, but because it directly attacks the deepest weaknesses of the human mind. To understand why this works, you need to understand one uncomfortable truth. Most human behavior is driven by the need for validation and control. From childhood, we're conditioned to seek response. A smile, a reply, approval, and attention. The brain associates response with safety and importance. When someone responds to us, it signals I matter. Ignoring removes that signal. And when that signal disappears, the mind doesn't become calm, it becomes unstable. This is where dark psychology begins. Number 1, the validation loop. Human beings operate in feedback loops. Action, reaction, emotional reward. When you reply, argue, explain, or defend yourself, you complete that loop. You give the other person psychological closure. Ignoring does the opposite. It leaves the loop open. An open loop creates discomfort. The brain hates unfinished interactions. This is why unanswered messages linger in the mind. longer than insults. Psychologically, the person you ignore starts replaying the interaction. Did I say something wrong? Are they angry? Why aren't they responding? You're no longer chasing clarity. They are power shifts instantly. Number 2, ego destabilization. The ego needs confirmation. It needs to be seen, challenged, or acknowledged. Ignoring denies all three. When someone is ignored, their ego doesn't interpret it as neutrality. It interprets it as rejection of importance. This triggers insecurity, obsession, escalation. That's why people double text. Why they get louder? Why they become passive-aggressive. Silence forces them to confront a terrifying possibility. I don't matter enough to provoke a reaction. And nothing threatens the ego more than irrelevance. Number 3, control through emotional detachment. Control is not about dominance. It's about who dictates emotional tone. The person who reacts is being led. The person who doesn't react is leading. When you ignore emotional bait, you demonstrate emotional independence, self-regulation, and internal authority. This creates an unconscious hierarchy. People naturally submit emotionally to those they can't manipulate. Not out of fear, but out of psychological alignment. Your silence communicates. My emotional state is not available for negotiation. That message is powerful. Number 4, the scarcity effect. What is always available is undervalued. What is scarce becomes valuable. Attention follows the same law. When you respond to everything, your attention becomes cheap. When you withhold it intentionally, it gains weight. Ignoring creates scarcity of access. Scarcity increases respect, curiosity, and perceived status. This isn't theory. It's behavioral psychology. People chase what they can't easily reach. Number 5, the projection trap. Silence is a mirror. When you say nothing, people project their own fears, intentions, and insecurities onto you. Your silence becomes whatever they fear most. An insecure person sees rejection. A manipulator sees loss of control. An aggressive person sees challenge. You haven't done anything yet. You've forced them to reveal themselves. That's why silence is dangerous. It gives people nowhere to hide. Number 6, why ignoring feels so hard. Ignoring feels uncomfortable because it triggers your own conditioning. You've been trained to explain yourself, be agreeable, keep peace, and avoid appearing cold. But emotional discipline is not cruelty. It's clarity. Ignoring doesn't mean you lack empathy. It means you refuse to be emotionally hijacked. The strongest people aren't the loudest. They're the most controlled. And once you understand this psychology, you stop seeing silence as avoidance and start seeing it as precision. Real examples. How ignoring shifts power. To truly understand the ruthless power of ignoring people, you need to see how it plays out in real life. Not in theory, not in quotes, but in human behavior where power dynamics are exposed. Example 1. The Roman general who used silence as authority. In ancient Rome, the most feared generals weren't always the loudest ones. One well-documented tactic among elite commanders was deliberate silence before battle. When questioned by soldiers or challenged by subordinates, certain generals would simply not respond. No defense, no correction, no explanation. This wasn't indecision, it was calculated. Silence forced others to interpret meaning themselves. Some assumed confidence, others assumed inevitability, but all felt the weight of authority. A leader who didn't rush to explain signaled one thing: he didn't need approval. Soldiers became hyper-aware of their own thoughts. Doubt intensified not in the leader, but in themselves. That's the first lesson: silence doesn't weaken leadership. It concentrates it. Example 2. Workplace power. The person who stops explaining. In modern workplaces, power rarely belongs to the most talented person. It belongs to the most emotionally controlled. Consider 2 employees. The first one constantly explains themselves. They respond instantly to emails. They justify decisions. They defend every move when questioned. The second one does not. They speak when necessary. They don't rush responses. They ignore passive-aggressive comments. They don't chase validation. Over time, something strange happens. The first employee becomes predictable and replaceable. The second becomes respected, even feared. Managers stop testing the second person. Colleagues stop challenging them unnecessarily. Why? Because people sense emotional self-sufficiency. When someone doesn't react, others unconsciously assume they know something you don't. They're confident in their position. They don't need approval. Ignoring isn't rudeness here. It's professional dominance. Example 3. Narcissists and the collapse of control. No group reacts more violently to being ignored than narcissistic personalities. Narcissists thrive on attention, positive or negative. Arguments feed them. Defense empowers them. But ignoring a narcissist does something terrifying to their psyche. It removes their sense of importance. When ignored, they escalate behavior, switch tactics, play victim, and attempt provocation. Why? Because their identity depends on emotional impact. Ignoring doesn't just hurt them, it exposes them. Many therapists acknowledge this quietly. The most effective boundary with a narcissist is controlled silence. Not explanation, not confrontation. Absence. This is why no contact works where arguments fail. Example 4, relationships. The one who reacts loses. In unhealthy relationships, power flows toward the less reactive partner. The one who explains feelings endlessly loses leverage. The one who ignores emotional bait gains it. This is often misunderstood as emotional coldness, but in reality it's emotional clarity. People are drawn to those who don't chase emotional reassurance, not because they're cruel, but because they're stable. When someone realizes their silence affects you, they control you. When they realize it doesn't, control collapses. Ignoring in relationships isn't punishment. It's refusal to engage in emotional chaos. Example 5, social media and manufactured outrage. Modern outrage culture survives on reaction. Algorithms reward anger, response, and engagement. The most powerful individuals online are not those who argue in comment sections. They're the ones who don't respond at all. Why? Because attention is currency. When you stop reacting, you remove fuel. Controversy dies without engagement. Public figures who master silence outlast scandals. Those who explain themselves get buried by them. Ignoring doesn't erase problems, it starves them. Example 6, the personal shift when you stop explaining. There's a moment in every person's life when they stop explaining themselves. Not because they're arrogant, because they're tired. And something changes. People either respect it or reveal their need for control. You lose some people, but you gain peace. And peace is power. The pattern is always the same. Those who react lose control. Those who ignore regain it. Not instantly, not loudly, but permanently. Ignoring is not absence. It's presence without permission. Practical takeaway. Understanding the power of ignoring is useless unless you can apply it without guilt, fear, or confusion. This is where most people fail, not because they don't understand the concept, but because they don't trust themselves enough to use it. So let's make this practical. 1. Redefine what ignoring really means. Ignoring is not cruelty. It's not ego. It's not punishment. Ignoring is selective engagement. You are not obligated to respond to disrespect, manipulation, emotional bait, passive aggression, and demands for explanation. Silence is not avoidance when engagement would only drain you. Ask yourself this before reacting. Does responding give me control or give it away? If it gives it away, silence is strength. 2. Delay is power. You don't need to ignore forever. Sometimes delay is enough. Immediate responses signal availability. Delayed responses signal independence. Start small, don't reply instantly. Let messages sit. Pause before explaining. This retrains both you and others. You are teaching people how much access they have to you. 3. Stop explaining yourself to the wrong people. Explanations are only valuable when the other person is operating in good faith. If someone twists your words, repeats the same argument, demands justification endlessly, they are not confused, they are controlling. Silence ends the loop. Remember, people who respect you don't need long explanations. 4. Expect pushback and stay calm. The moment you stop reacting, people will test you. They'll escalate. They'll guilt trip. They'll provoke. This is not failure. It's confirmation. Power always resists being taken away. Your job is not to win the moment. It's to remain consistent. Silence only works when it's calm, not emotional. 5. Use silence strategically, not emotionally. Never ignore out of anger. That's reaction disguised as control. Ignore from clarity. Your silence should say, "This does not deserve my energy," not "I'm hurt." The difference is everything. 6. Know when not to ignore. Ignoring is powerful but not universal. Do not use silence to avoid responsibility. Punish people you care about. Escape difficult but necessary conversations. True power is knowing when to speak and when not to. Silence is a tool, not a personality. 7. The final mental shift. The moment you stop needing to be understood by everyone, you become impossible to manipulate. Most people give away power because they want approval, because they want peace, because they want to be liked. But peace comes from boundaries. Respect comes from restraint. Power comes from emotional control. Ignoring people doesn't make you cold. It makes you unavailable to nonsense. And that is freedom. If this message resonated with you, don't rush to react, sit with it. Apply it quietly. Observe how people change when you do. And if you're ready to master emotional control, self-discipline, and silent confidence, subscribe and stay. The strongest moves are always invisible.